What if the one thing we spend our lives chasing is the very thing slowly unraveling us? You've been told freedom is the goal, autonomy, independence, the ability to choose your path. That's what it means to be alive, right? But then comes the night. Not the kind filled with tragedy, but the quiet kind. The kind where everything's still on the outside, but your mind is loud. You stare at the ceiling. You scroll through jobs you don't apply to, people you don't message, lives you don't live. You tell yourself you're tired, that you need more time. But beneath all of that, you're drowning in options. And none of them feel right. That's not peace, that's paralysis. Here's the paradox Sartre forces us to confront. What if freedom, the one thing that's supposed to make us feel limitless, is what's making us feel so lost? Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher who stood at the heart of existentialism in the 20th century, didn't describe freedom as a victory. He called it a sentence. Man is condemned to be free. Condemned, not granted, not gifted, condemned. Because once you're conscious, once you realize no one else is going to live your life for you, something heavy drops on your shoulders. There are no scripts, no maps, no higher authority assigning you a role, just you, staring at the raw material of your existence. And that's where the fear sets in. We want choices. Until we realize every choice defines us, we want independence. Until we realize independence means no one else can be blamed. Sartre called it anguish, not the kind that screams, but the kind that creeps. It shows up when you realize you can't escape yourself. Every time you stay at the job you hate, every time you swallow what you should have said, every time you say, maybe later to the life that's calling you, you're choosing, even in silence, even in stillness. And that's the weight we carry. Not because someone put it there, but because no one else can carry it for us. You want the truth? No one's coming. No God, no guru, no guide. Just you, in the dark, holding the pen, being told right. And what happens if you don't? You become someone you never meant to be. Not because you were forced, but because you refused to choose. That's the curse of freedom. It never lets you off the hook. Even in passivity, even in delay, it's still you choosing the delay. There's no escape hatch, no default setting. That's why Sartre said we are without excuse, not to shame you, but to wake you. This isn't cruelty, this is clarity. Freedom is terrifying because it leaves no one to blame, no one to follow, and no one to forgive us for living a life we never wanted. So if you're lying there, eyes open, breath tight, thinking, why do I feel stuck when I have so many options? That's not failure, that's freedom, unfiltered, unstructured, unforgiving. The question isn't, can you act? The question is, when will you stop pretending you can't? Because pretending you don't have a choice is a choice. And it might be the most dangerous one you ever make. We've all done it. We've all told ourselves the elegant lie. I can't leave, it's not the right time. I have responsibilities, it's just the way things are. They sound reasonable, mature, adult. But if you strip them down, what they really mean is, I don't want to face what happens if I choose differently. Because choice. Real choice. That's terrifying. Sartre had a name for this kind of self-deception, bad faith. It's not the dramatic kind of lying, it's quieter than that. It's the waiter who performs his role so perfectly, so methodically, that he becomes the role. He's no longer a person who waits tables, he is a waiter. Every gesture rehearsed, every word filtered. Because acting the part is easier than asking who he is when the apron comes off. Sound familiar? You've done it too. We all have. You perform the responsible adult, the supportive partner, the ambitious worker. You play the script that others expect of you, and the longer you play it, the more real it feels. Until one day you forget you're acting, and then, The act becomes the cage. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The cage was never locked. You were always free to walk out. You just told yourself the door wasn't there. That's why the most dangerous prison is the one you build with your own beliefs. A prison with no bars, just fears dressed as facts. The mystic poet Rumi once wrote, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open?" Because leaving would mean admitting the prison was never real. And if it wasn't real, then you stayed because you were afraid. Not of failure, but of authorship. Because freedom doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, the kind that demands you speak. The kind that requires you to take ownership of your story, not just the good parts, but the missed opportunities. The years spent drifting, the choices you pretended weren't yours. That's why Ernest Becker said, "Better guilt than the terrible burden of freedom." Because guilt is familiar, manageable. You can live with it, tuck it away, call it sacrifice. But freedom holds up a mirror, and it waits. That mirror doesn't lie, it doesn't comfort. It asks one question: if the door was open, why didn't you walk through it? Maybe you stayed because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. Maybe you thought you had more time. Maybe you were waiting for a sign. But maybe, just maybe, you stayed because pretending to be powerless is easier than admitting you're afraid of power. Because real power means responsibility, and responsibility means blame. And blame is hard, but here's the paradox. The longer you avoid the weight, the heavier it becomes. You can't not choose. You can only choose to lie about the fact that you're choosing. That's bad faith, and if you're not careful, it will take everything. Your clarity, your courage, your identity. Not all at once, slowly, imperceptibly. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've become someone you don't recognize, all while convincing yourself this is just how life works. But it's not. Life doesn't happen to you. It waits for you to show up. And when you don't, it doesn't punish you. It forgets you. You become invisible, not to others, to yourself. And the scariest part? You did it for comfort. You traded authorship for autopilot. And the longer you drift, the harder it is to remember that you can take the wheel. But you can. And the moment you do, the mask starts to crack. And under the role, under the excuses, under the fear, there you are. Waiting, watching, ready to walk out of the cage you built. The key? It was always in your hand. We're told freedom is the ultimate prize, the thing we should seek above all else. But the more we have, the less we want. Freedom should feel like a breath of fresh air, right? A clean slate, a canvas, a world of possibilities. But instead, we find ourselves paralyzed by it. It's supposed to liberate us, but it traps us in a maze of choices. In Sartre's world, freedom doesn't come with ease. It comes with responsibility. It doesn't promise clarity, it promises confusion. We live in a world where you can choose everything. From your career to your beliefs to the person you want to be. But with that, the weight of not choosing becomes unbearable. It's the paradox of modern existence. The more freedom we're given, the more we hesitate. Not because we don't know what we want, but because we know we can't have everything. We know that every choice will close off another path. We know that every decision says, this is who I am. And that scares us. Sartre saw it long ago. The more freedom we're given, the more anxious we become. The more options we have, the more we fear making the wrong choice. And in that fear, we do nothing. We scroll endlessly, we buy things we don't need, we distract ourselves with noise, anything to avoid facing the crushing weight of what it means to choose. This isn't just about making big life decisions. It's about the everyday decisions we make or fail to make. Every time we let a day go by without direction, every time we let ourselves drift, we're choosing not to be the author of our own story. We're choosing to let the algorithm decide for us. We're choosing to be passive, to surrender to what's comfortable, to what's familiar. But that comfort? It's not freedom. It's self-imposed imprisonment. Sartre's warning wasn't about the physical chains that hold us back. It was about the chains we build ourselves. The ones that come from avoiding responsibility, from pretending we're not free because facing the truth would be too much. And that's what modern anxiety is. It's not just about burnout from overwork or information overload. It's about the weight of 1,000 choices all hanging in front of us and the fear of picking the wrong one. The fear of not being who we should be. We've bought into the myth that we can have it all. But what if that's the very thing keeping us stuck? Because the reality is that you can't have it all. You can't be everything. You can't live every possible life. You can't try every career, every relationship, every path. And the more you realize that, the more the pressure mounts. You start to feel like you're running out of time, running out of options, running out of chances. But here's the painful truth. If you don't choose, you choose nothing. And that in itself is a choice. Sartre called this the absurdity of existence, freedom without meaning. We are free to choose, but the choices don't come with a preordained path. The map is blank, and it's up to us to fill it in. But when you don't know where to start, when every option seems like it could be the wrong one, it's easier to not choose at all. This is where we get stuck. We wait for someone or something to tell us what to do, what path to take, which direction to go. We think we need a sign, a guide, a promise that we're going in the right direction. But Sartre's message is clear. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need the map, the rules, or the reassurance. You need to act. You need to choose, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't make sense at first. The problem isn't that you have too many choices. It's that you're too afraid to make one. And the more you delay, the more the weight of freedom presses down on you. You're not getting lighter, you're getting heavier. Because without action, without decision, freedom isn't liberating, it's suffocating. You are free. But your fear of that freedom is holding you hostage. You keep waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, and in doing so, you let your life pass you by. The solution isn't to look for more options, more opportunities. The solution is to stop waiting, to stop pretending that the responsibility isn't yours. You can sit in the labyrinth, or you can make a choice. You can choose a path and let the rest fade away. But the longer you wait, the harder it will be to see the exit when it finally appears. There's a story about the Grand Inquisitor from Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. Jesus returns to earth, he heals the sick, he performs miracles, he brings hope. And the people recognize him, they adore him, they want to follow him. But the church, the power structure that controls them, doesn't want that. The church arrests him, the Grand Inquisitor, the head of the church, confronts him. And in that confrontation, he says something that is as chilling as it is true. You gave them freedom, that was your mistake. The Grand Inquisitor tells Jesus that people don't want freedom. They want comfort, they want certainty. They want someone to tell them what to do, how to act, what to believe. Freedom, he argues, is too much, it's too overwhelming. It's too heavy, people can't handle it. They need to be controlled. They need someone else to make the choices for them. At first it seems absurd. But as we look around, we realize how true it is. How often we trade freedom for comfort. How often we seek security over uncertainty. How often we choose the predictable path because the unknown is too much to bear. Sartre's vision of freedom was raw. It wasn't about liberation in the traditional sense. It wasn't about joy or empowerment. It was about the brutal honesty of existence. About looking into the void and realizing that you are the one who must choose. You are the one who must fill the empty canvas. And that's where the burden comes in. In Sartre's world, there is no external force guiding you. no higher power assigning you a purpose. There's no one telling you what you should do, what you should believe, how you should live. You're alone in your choices. You're responsible for your actions, for your beliefs, for your existence. And that weight is heavy. But here's the catch. This burden is also what gives life meaning. Without it, life is just an accident, a series of random events with no meaning, no direction, no purpose. It's only through the burden of freedom, through the responsibility of choice, that we create meaning. Sartre wasn't trying to make freedom sound like a gift. He was trying to show us that the freedom to choose is what gives us the power to create ourselves. And yes, that's terrifying. But it's also what makes us human. The Grand Inquisitor wanted to take that freedom away. He wanted to give people certainty, security, comfort at the cost of their agency, at the cost of their soul. And we do the same every day. We trade our freedom for comfort. We run from the responsibility of choice because it's easier to follow someone else's script. But Sartre's message remains clear. If you don't choose, you choose nothing. It's not enough to just exist. It's not enough to drift. You have to create your meaning, your story, your path. And that doesn't come without struggle. It doesn't come without conflict. It doesn't come without the weight of choice, but that weight, it's what makes life real. It's what makes you real. So when the choices get heavy, when the path gets unclear, remember this: you are free, you are responsible. And that freedom, the weight of it, is your gift. Don't run from it, carry it and walk. Freedom, we crave it, we chase it. We believe that it is the answer to everything. But what if the thing we want most, freedom, isn't the gift we imagine? It's the one thing we've been told to seek, to strive for. The thing we're promised will bring us fulfillment, clarity, and joy. The thing that will allow us to break free from the constraints of society, from expectations, from the past. The thing that lets us make our own choices and build our own lives. But the moment you touch it, you realize freedom isn't as simple as it sounds. It's heavy, it's burdened. It doesn't offer the relief we thought it would. Freedom doesn't come with a safety net. It doesn't come with rules. It doesn't give you a guidebook to follow. It doesn't come with a comforting voice in the background saying, this is the right way. It only gives you choice, the responsibility to choose. The weight of knowing that every decision you make carries consequences. Every action you take shapes who you are. And that, every single time, is yours to own. Sartre's existentialism wasn't about the freedom to do whatever you want. It was about the weight of choice. The responsibility of knowing that you have the power to create yourself. And that power isn't easy, it's suffocating at times. When you're free, you realize you are alone in your choices. There's no one else who can make those decisions for you. You can't hide behind anyone. You can't blame your parents, your circumstances, the system, not anymore. Because once you know that your freedom is real, you can no longer escape the fact that you are the one writing your life story. Every word you say, every action you take, it's yours. And that is beautiful, yes, but it's also terrifying. Sartre's challenge is to be in that weight, to feel it, to feel the crushing responsibility of freedom. To know that the life you live, the choices you make, and the identity you form are yours, and no one else's. We are told that freedom will liberate us, but it's not freedom without limits. It's the kind of freedom that makes you question everything. The kind that leaves you vulnerable, open. But if you don't embrace it, if you don't choose it fully, then you live in a prison of your own making. A prison of the stories you tell yourself to avoid confronting what's truly at stake. You think the problem is lack of freedom? No. The problem is the fear of it. The fear of stepping into the unknown, the fear of choosing something, anything, when every other choice remains just as real, just as possible. But every time you avoid a choice, you choose the path of least resistance. And in that choice, you lose yourself. You are free. But freedom comes with no guarantees. It doesn't promise happiness. It doesn't promise peace. It simply gives you the power to create your life, to shape your future. And the weight of that creation is yours to carry. Freedom isn't light. It's heavy. It's a burden. But it's also the one thing that makes you real. And that weight, when chosen freely, becomes your gift. It becomes your essence. It becomes the very thing that makes life worth living. There's a truth we often overlook in the search for freedom. The truth that freedom without meaning is just an open field with no direction. You can have all the freedom in the world. You can make all the choices you want. But if you don't choose meaning, you will wander aimlessly. If you don't choose purpose, your freedom will begin to feel like a burden. It will begin to weigh you down, because without purpose, freedom becomes aimless and empty. Sartre told us that we are the ones responsible for giving our lives meaning. We are not given meaning by anyone or anything else. It is not handed to us by society, by fate, or by divine will. We create it. And that creation is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose, the freedom to define who we are and what our lives stand for. But here's where we get lost. We mistake freedom for option. We think that because we have so many options, we have all the freedom in the world. But options don't bring meaning. The choice to define yourself, the choice to decide what matters, that's where freedom lies. But that means we can no longer run from responsibility. We can't look to others to tell us what to do, what's right, what's wrong, what we should believe, what we should choose. We are the ones who must decide. And that decision is hard, it's uncomfortable, it's a burden. But if we choose it, if we choose to live in the fullness of our responsibility, we discover something incredible. We discover that we are the ones writing our story. And we can change it, we can rewrite it. We can make it as rich and as meaningful as we want it to be. But if we avoid that responsibility, if we keep deferring our choices, if we keep waiting for someone else to tell us what to do, we become lost. We wander through life pretending that our lives have no meaning, when in fact the meaning is ours to create. This is the final test, the final challenge, the final freedom to choose what your life will be. To create meaning out of the chaos, to look at the blank canvas of your existence and say, I will paint it. I will make it mine. But the trick is this: when you choose, when you take the pen in your hand, you must also accept the consequences. You must accept the weight of your choices. There is no one else to blame. There is no one else to answer to. And that's the ultimate test of freedom, the responsibility to make meaning, to choose, and to live with that choice fully. The freedom to be yourself, the freedom to shape your life, is the most powerful gift you have. But with it comes the weight of knowing that you are the author of your story. You will always have the power to choose, but now you must choose what your life will be. You must step into the weight of your own freedom and claim it as yours. This is the burden of freedom, to choose, to create, and to live with the consequences of those choices. It's heavy, but it's beautiful, because in that weight, you will finally find the meaning you've been searching for. You will find yourself. Now, what will you choose?